Does anyone else get scared that they will never be able to buy a home because of these prices? The prices are outrageous, and I don't even know how people afford homes. It literally keeps me up at night.
So this seems to be the sentiment for a lot of people here in the United States, right? Especially the younger generation, where you have the Gen Zs and the millennials. Just even the thought of buying a house someday is moving further and further out of reach, right? Especially in today's economy, where everything is more expensive. You know, you have cost of living increasing, and when it comes to wages, they're not increasing at the same rate. So a lot of people are getting to a point where it's like, yo, like, will I ever be able to purchase a home? And me personally, like, if you're someone that's single, it's going to be extremely difficult to do that by yourself, right? Especially in today's economy. You're either going to even have like a spouse, or you're gonna have to get up with family members in order to do that, because like I said, wages for a lot of people, wages are not, the median house is almost 400K, I think I've read somewhere, and they're saying that you need at least you need a six-figure income in order to purchase the median houses these days. So most people don't make that, so it's extremely difficult to do that by yourself. You got to get up with someone in order to do that. So if you're doing it by yourself, like I said, it's going to be extremely difficult, especially if you want to find a good home in a nice neighborhood. And for a lot of people, just the thought of this is getting to a point where they're just saying, all right, man, like, they have no hopes, right? Their hopes of buying a home is just dropping with every single day, and especially with you reading the news, it's just like, all right, the way the economy is going, people are starting to get to a point where like, all right, they're just losing all hope. And this brought me to an article here on CNBC where it says renters' hopes of being able to buy a home have fallen to a record low, New York Fed survey shows. And for a lot of people, obviously, I think what a lot of people struggle with the most is like when you're the opportunity to buy a home, right? That the fact that you can buy a home is like that first step into into being successful here in the United States, right? Like people look at it, obviously the American dream is like, go to school, get an education, get a good job, and then you get that home. And people look at buying a home or being able to buy a home as a step towards success here in America. And obviously you want to make sure you're buying a home for the right reasons, right? Obviously you don't want to be buying a home because you want to impress other people. You want to show other people that you're being successful in America. Obviously you should be doing it for the right reasons, whether you're buying real estate to make money, right, which I would recommend for a lot of people that are purchasing their first real estate property, or you're doing because you want to raise a family, right? You want to make sure you're raising your family in a stable household, right? These are good reasons why you want to purchase a home. But for a lot of people, they see that as a way of success, or as a step towards success. But for many people, they're losing hope that it's even possible. So I'm gonna just go read this article and then and share my thoughts. So it says, all right, so the dream of home ownership has gotten even further away for renters, with higher housing costs and elevated interest rates standing in the way of American housing dream, according to the New York Federal Reserve survey released Monday. The share of renters as of February who poses hopes of residential mobility or the belief from renters that they one day be able to afford a home fell to a record low 13.4% in the central bank annual housing survey for 2024. That's down from 15% last year in 2023, and well off the 20.8% series back in 2014. So you can see that it went down tremendously. Like as years have gone by, like housing has increased, and people have gotten to a point where, you know what, like I can't. There's no way I'm gonna be able to afford a home right now, and people have lost hope based on this article that will even happen. So it says, all right, so pessimism about the future prospects comes in confidence and confluence of factors conspiring against the likelihood of renters being able to transition to a home ownership. For one, some 74.2% of renters viewed obtaining a mortgage as somewhat or very difficult, with the New York Fed said has deteriorated substantially from the 66.5 level in 2023 and 63.1% in 2022. Obviously, for that one, the interest rates have a lot to do with that. Right, the Fed's increasing interest rates the way they are, and you see housing prices at that time they were raising it, still staying elevated. So you got interest rates increase, and then you still have housing prices increasing because obviously supply and demand, right? There's not enough supply, and demand is up there. So you got high interest rates, high properties that purchase, and a lot of people are like finding that it's very difficult to qualify. And these banks are being very tough. They're being very strict when it comes to who they're lending money. So you got to make sure obviously you have the income. You got to make sure you can afford it, and these banks are going to look for that. Obviously, you have to have the credit score, and they just want to make sure that you can afford these things, because you can see it that people are expecting, right? Everybody's expecting a recession, things to go, people being laid off. So these banks are being very strict when it comes to who they're going to lend their money to, because they want to make sure obviously you can pay it back. So it doesn't surprise me that they're seeing that more people are finding it difficult to obtain a mortgage, right? Especially with the banks being as tight as they are, especially where the economy is, and people are not, so there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the economy, and these banks are like, all right, we want to make sure if you're going to give you the money, we want to make sure that you can pay it back. So, it says, moreover, mortgage rates have remained high by historical standards. A 30-year fixed rate mortgage now carries an average 7.22% borrowing rate, and the highest since late November 2023. So it says housing affordability has improved little, with the median price in February at $388,000. The highest price since November, according to National Association of Realtors. The NAR Housing Affordability Index was at 103 in February, down slightly from January, but still in elevated levels from average monthly housing payments at 2004. So it says right there, it says what the average median price for a home is $388,000. So depending on where you look, I've checked Google, and some places have said like $400K. So I guess it depends on where you're looking. So it says, all right, so survey respondents expected housing prices increase 5.1% over the next year, nearly double the 2.6% expected rate in February 2023, and above the pre-pandemic level 4.2%. So I'm kind of surprised that they're talking about it. I don't want to say I'm surprised, but like they say it's going to increase 5.1% over the next year. I would think that if the feds are going to increase the interest rates, right, you would expect probably housing prices to come down because there's going to be less demand. However, obviously that's going to depend on how many houses are available, right? If there's still not a lot of houses available for people to buy, and demand continues to stay up, then you can still see prices elevated the way they are. So it's interesting to see how that's going to go. I mean, they expect it to be up 5.1%, and it's just, you think what the feds are doing, they're increasing the interest rates to help drive things down. So we'll see how that goes. So it says, despite prospects of the Fed to cut interest rates before the end of 2024, respondents think mortgage rates are only going to go higher. The outlook for a year from now is that borrowing costs will be 8.7% and 9.7% in the 3 years, both survey records. There's not a lot of good news on the renting front either. Respondents expect rental costs to increase by 9.7% from the next year, up 1.5 percentage points from last year's survey, and second highest in series history. So the results come a week after the Federal Open Market Committee voted to hold benchmark interest rates steady, while indicating that there has been a lack of further progress in its efforts to bring the annual inflation rate back down to 2%. Future market prices is indicating that the Fed will begin lowering rates in September, with another cut likely to come in December. So yeah, so I guess it's going to really depend. Like depending on what the Feds do, if they're going to ever drop interest rates. For a lot of people, they're going to see that and then say, you know what, it's going to be more difficult. If they're expecting housing prices to increase along with interest rates, it's going to be very difficult for anyone to. It's going to be difficult for those looking to purchase a property, especially if you're going to do, like I said, do it by yourself. Like if you're going to try to purchase a property, you're gonna have to partner with someone, like a family member, a relative, spouse. You're gonna have to do it because it's extremely hard to buy real estate by itself, especially with the price being the way it is. It's just way too expensive. And unless you have a good job, right? Like I said, unless you have a job that's making you a lot of money, or you have like a side business, a side hustle that's also bringing in the income to a level where that you can afford the house, right? But these banks are gonna want to see that you can afford it, all right? If you got the side business or the side hustle, they want to make sure that your income can therefore afford the house, and that you're going to be able to pay them back. But it's interesting to see how the sentiment for a lot of people, the fact that they don't think they can. The hope of buying a home is dropping, and that's never a good thing, right? You want people having that opportunity to buy a home. Of course, you want to make sure they're doing it for the right reasons, and obviously, but for a lot of renters, it seems like it's going to be harder and harder for a lot of people to move from renting to housing. So we'll see how that goes, like in the next couple of years, especially with interest rates increasing. You want to make sure you're seeing housing prices come down if that's possible, but that's all going to depend on supply and demand. So those are my thoughts. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Make sure to leave a comment down below, hit the like button, and share. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe. All right, so guys, take care and have a good one. Later.